So given that you guys were already kind of working on this piece, was recording it just something that came about organically, or was it? Do you want to talk about like your backgrounds, like introduce yourselves, who you are, what your backgrounds are, like what compelled you to record the Arpeggione?
I think if we kind of start with if it can be like a play-by-play of Dan is grimacing. Go ahead, Dan. Right the ship.
I don't want to talk about my background.
Any fun moments recording?
No. All right, world. This is Mark Aparece. He's a friend of ours from different places. I know him from Church of the Advent here in Boston, and I go on bike rides and stuff with him. And he subs for me as an acolyte, because I somehow get injured and can't do my job. And then Pierre knows him from Chicago.
Yes, indeed, the DePaul community.
And he plays viola.
And he plays viola.
And he composes. So he's the perfect 19th century amateur musician, audience member.
There's no way that Dan is just like working up this piece only for a birthday party where I'm playing on an electric keyboard.
No, it's for a lot more than that, but YCA, and I had my eyes on the Chamber Music Society of Lincoln Center.
So recording the Arpeggione Sonata, was this something that came about organically, or was it directly a consequence of COVID?
You tell us, chemist, if it came about organically.
Yeah.
No, I've been thinking a lot about recording music in general and why, like, it seems like every other musical community just is recording music all the time and putting out music all the time, and classical musicians don't really there's just not really that impulse for classical musicians. So I was just trying to think about, okay, if I recorded something, what would it be? And then I had all these ideas for, I just had all these ideas floating around in my head, and then I happened to be playing this with Dan, and I was like, man, Dan plays pretty well, and that was a lot of fun, and he's pretty easy to work with, so I'll just kind of pitch it to him. And yeah, Dan was just like, yeah, sure. So we were like sitting on the green line, and I remember we had to like, the Lechmere stop is like we were like had to walk over a bunch of different tracks, and we were like the only ones at the stop, and we just sat on this train, and it was an extremely banal situation. And I was just like, yeah, so I've been thinking about an album, and do you want to record this together? And then he's like, sure. And then I don't think we knew that it would be a 1.5 long thing.
No. We planned to
this was in 2019, by the way.
Yeah, we planned to do it in September of 2019, actually.
Right.
Which would have been right around the time. Well, I was going to kill 2 birds with 1 stone and use this to get a really good recording for YCA and CMS. If I recorded it in September, I would be able to get it ready and send it for those audition tapes. But I hurt my back pretty badly, SI joint, sacroiliac joint. If you know what that is, you're probably doing something wrong with your life. And I was really incapacitated and just couldn't do the recording. So I like to think that's why I didn't get in for YCA or CMS to pass the tape run, because I didn't have the good Schubert. Yeah, so we just punted from September to January and recorded it then.
Yeah, I mean, we even had like recording dates down with the studio.
Yeah.
And then it got pushed back, which was fine ultimately.
So you said you're recording an album.
Well, it was originally going to be featured in an album, and please excuse my lack of elaboration, but really to try to keep it short, is that I think classical music can find, instead of staying in the abstract void of the work, I think that classical music, to try to stay relevant, needs to find a way to be more about the people that actually play the music. And people are wondering about the relevance of classical music. Well, we spent the past 200 years putting the work in its own like sealed little chamber, and then now we wonder why it's all alone and like doesn't have any relevance. So I think I want to try to record an album that incorporates kind of my world, like all of my friends, as many people that are around me as I can, to kind of show that classical music is a life rather than an art, which is again something that other kinds of music embrace. But at the same time, I didn't want this recording to be held back, because planning with so many different kinds of people and is going to take a lot of time, and we have this recording, and there's no point in delaying it.
I disagree with something you said, Nicholas. Sort of, I think, maybe we agree. But classical music, a better way of saying it, because it's such a broad tent, it's music with a text that's interpreted and reinterpreted across generations and all over the world. So there is this textual element to it that you kind of have with like constitutional law or biblical studies or something. And so in that sense, but the interpreter is of course like incredibly important, so it doesn't diminish that fact. But I think the textualness of it distinguishes it, is probably the distinguishing feature given how broad classical music is from other kinds of music.
Yeah, I agree with that, but also to think that our idea of the text is the same idea as what Schubert, well, I mean, I'm not saying I know what Schubert thought of when he thought of like notated music versus non-notated music, but it certainly is different than what we think, because at that point, whether there was a canon or not, again, that concept has changed a lot. This modern idea of hiding yourself, like erasing yourself in order to play the work well, this kind of Platonic idea of the ultimate Schubert sonata. And I think that that's something that we do well in our recording, Dan, is that we do a good job of, like, there are things that only I would have done in this sonata, and there are things decisions that you made, like Measure 57.
Measure 57.
that some people would not do.
No, some people would not do. But we don't have to,
I do like your points about how in other forms of music there is this idea of ownership, so to speak. You know, when you listen to a Beatles song versus a Beatles cover, you know which one's the Beatles, the authentic Beatles. You say, oh, that's Ringo on the drums, or that's Kurt Cobain, Nirvana. That's him as the lead. Whereas with classical music, like Dan said, there's a lot of there's a textual element to that.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that everybody.
Not to like, but right, but there is no ideal text. I mean, that's sort of a mid 20th century thing, like a Toscanini textual literalism. I mean, that's something that like a lot of people before him and after him, and even during that time, never really believed in. And maybe Toscanini didn't himself, but it's something that like sort of caught on.
It's definitely a means to power.
Yeah, it's a good advertising shtick. Some people think that for him it was just advertising.
Right. Can you guys tell me more about the Arpeggione? And I looked this up. I know that it's a pretty obscure stringed instrument that pretty much came and went, and this is the only major work that was written for it. Can you tell me a little bit about it?
It was basically a bowed guitar. It had the same tuning as a guitar, 6 strings.
Wasn't it fretted also?
Yeah, it was fretted. And it was held between the knees, kind of like a small cello. And I know a lot about the guitar. I teach guitar. I don't play guitar, I just teach guitar.
Really?
Yeah, to a student who doesn't really learn guitar. It's a perfect combination. It's great. Yeah, that's
Very waiting for Godot.
yeah. So that's pretty much the Arpeggione, and it sounds better on viola, to be honest. It sounds better on viola than on cello. I want all the cellists to know that.
Dan, I only realized this later, but at the end of the development, not everybody goes to that high E.
No, only the brave do.
Only the brave. So there's that famous saying of like stupidity is only one step further than bravery.
Yeah.
Is that for the utmost staccato in measure 57, would that be one step farther than taking the high E?
Yes, it would be. It would definitely be, well, several steps further, but also like quite in the
Oh.
wrong direction.
No, it was just funny that like I didn't really, it didn't, I mean, you're the only violist I played it with. I played it with two cellists, and most recordings I listen to are mostly on cello. So it didn't register that like that E was.
Oh yeah.
It's just a very ride the lightning moment for those that want to listen to that.
Yeah, it's one of those questions. That is a question. Like you go and listen to an Arpeggione song, like, are they going to go for it? Are they going to do it? You know?
Yeah.
Does this man have the courage?
This guy does.
Yeah, this guy has the balls. You know, we're gonna swing for the fences. We don't care if we miss. Yeah, but I usually hit it. You know,
it's
Nice.
true. It's true. And with authority.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking center of the bat.
Yep.
Pants or shorts?
Pants, except when it's above 75 degrees.
Pants.
80 degrees. I don't know.
All right. Seinfeld or The Office?
I can't choose.
Seinfeld.
Okay. Mahler or Brahms?
Brahms.
Yeah, Brahms.
Although when I was 12, I would have said Mahler.
Yeah, I was gonna say I like my Mahler moods are stronger than my Brahms moods. But Brahms.
Debussy or Ravel?
Ravel, 100%. Greatest French composer. He's up there with Brahms in terms of like just quality. Didn't write a bad piece, and they're all incredibly creative.
2-3 years ago, I would have said Ravel. Now I'm leaning towards Debussy.
No, that's wrong.
Favorite foods in Boston?
There was a brief period of time where I absolutely loved the egg sandwich at Farmer's Horse Coffee, but that place has a rugged history, and it quickly became one of my least favorite places.
What are your, respectively, Dan, your viola heroes, and Nick, your piano heroes?
Lawrence Power, Kim Kashkashian.
Long Long and Bugs Bunny.